Yo, what is up? Welcome back to World of Tanks. Today we are back with the Tier 10 Chinese tank light tank WZ-132-1, the on-track light tank, and we are riding with Mr. Anderson. Check out his equipment, only vertical stabilizers and optics. He's got the third slot empty and he's not even running food, which is why I wanted to show you this replay today. We are in Himmelsdorf spawn on the south, and the reason why I wanted to show you this replay is because this tank is kind of pretty amazing for a light tank, and I wanted to show you its combat capabilities. If you pay attention, he's not even running any kind of camouflage, so essentially he's not even playing this tank as a designated light tank. If you look at the ammunition below, he has already loaded up his HE shells because he's anticipating coming up against this 13105, and with that HE shell, high rolled 508 to finish him off. Of course, this tank has only 390 alpha damage with a 246 penetration on its standard APCR shells, which is pretty helpful because you get some kind of like 1200 meters per second shell velocity, and on the premium shells you have heat, which does 280 penetration, still the same 390 alpha damage, but 800 meters per second shell velocity. Now he's still with the HE shells, and he wants to make use of this HE shells because he's trying to take advantage of that penetration on a grill 15. If he shoots the shield, he can get a high roll on it, which he does. 522 on his second shot, 2 shots already 1000 damage. So our friend Mr. Anderson 77 here, he's not playing this light tank as a traditional light tank, but instead he's playing it as a medium tank with light tank capabilities. Grill snapshots him and miss. He shoots the grill and does not pen. Instead, he shoots the engine deck, which only gives him 233 damage. But his third shell on the grill, this time he does hit the shield with the HE shell, the last of his HE shells, and he rolls for 415 damage. So just 4 shots and already 1678 damage. His team is leading 4 tanks to 2, and it looks like 3 of his teammates are trying to cap it out. He's trying to pen the Super Conqueror on the side with his standard APCR shells, but does not make it through. It could have been better if he did it with the heat shells. Now, this tank has 0.40 dispersion, which is pretty bad for a light tank, pretty bad for a medium tank. It's even pretty bad for a heavy tank. With that extra third slot, I would highly recommend an improved aim equipment to at least reduce the dispersion down to 0.38, then preferably run food, and you probably get that dispersion down to 0.35 perhaps, and then this tank will be a proper kind of combat capable light tank. Although it seems to be working fine for him the way it is right now. Too bad he did not carry more more HE shells. Maybe he could have one shot the T92 there, but I don't know. Maybe he could have one shot if he had some HE shells, because I think he could have rolled 500 and or maybe 500 plus, and possibly one shot that T92 and saved him a little bit of time. But nevertheless, he's still doing pretty well. 2961 damage already. Now he's going to 1v1 the STRV, and the STRV made a mistake there. He should have driven close to that wall, back against his wall, and then perhaps he could have finished off the 1321. Unfortunately, he knows his time is up, and he's just sat there with his tracks broken and already used his repair kit, so he's game over. It is still a pretty close fight, 10-9. He is now face to face with a 261. 261 could theoretically finish him off if he, you know, one-shot him or penned his HE shell on the 1321, but he loses his spot, loses his camo, drives around and flanks him. 261 does not anticipate him coming from the side. He snapshots and misses him because the 1321 was on lower ground. There was no way 261 could have hit him, so he finishes him off from the back. Now he's going to make his way down the K line, and just the 60 TP STRV and EBR 105 left on the enemy team. And while he makes his way down on the K line, what do you think of the 1321? Are you grinding up? Are you grinding down this line and trying to add it to your arsenal? I'm going to tell you straight up, the 1321 is a tank that is not favorable in terms of light tank gameplay, because light tank gameplay right now is dominated by the wheeled tanks, which is the EBR 105s. The secondary light tank that you could possibly be competitive in is the T100LT, which is the Soviet light tank. The 1321 is nowhere near in comparison with the EBR or the T100LT. So therefore, as a light tank, if you do bring a light tank in random battles, you are actually going to be a detriment to your team, because you cannot properly function as a light tank. You have to play this more like a medium tank, which means your team will be down a light tank. You understand what I mean? If you showed up in a light tank, in a WZ-132-1, and you cannot fulfill your role as a light tank and you have to play as a medium tank, it means your team is going to be down one light tank. And if you're in an open map, then it will be an advantage to the enemy team. Otherwise, the 1321 is not a terrible tank, as you can see our friend here demonstrates, even with only two equipment, which is the optics and the vertical stabilizer. He's already racked up 5,211 damage. He tells his team not to chase after the EBR 105 and instead just cap it out, because there is no way you can catch an EBR 105. Even in a city map like this, the EBR would easily escape. Two heavy tanks and one light tank is not going to be able to cover the map in enough time or to try and box in that EBR 105. So the EBR does have a little bit fight in him and does want to try to reset the cap. Our friend here tries to shoot the EBR, but the 0.40 dispersion there, not allowing him to hit that EBR. You need a little bit of RNG luck here in order to hit the EBR, and he finally does hit that EBR. He's trying to hide behind the STRV, but that EBR manages to find some space to hit that WZ-132-1 and does reset the cap, but he waits for him, pre-aims that corner, that EBR 105 pokes and takes another big hit from the WZ-132-1, and the 60 TP will finish off that EBR 105. What do you think of this tank? Are you grinding up this tank? It is a combat capable tank, but it is not a combat capable light tank. You are in no way going to compete with an EBR or a T100LT. In fact, the enemy EBR did over 4,500 damage on a city map like Himmelsdorf. So think about what you want to do. Are you going to spend your time on this tank, grinding up this tank? Are you going to collect this tank? Let me know what you think, and I will see you on the next video. Bye bye.